the most disturbing events in history. That's what we're going to be talking about today, okay? And understand this, bro. I'm glad to be getting back into the historical videos. We kind of went down a Gooner arc for a moment, but I feel like that's made my historical fan base that much hungrier, okay? Because in this video, for the spooky month of October, I want to go down some of, like, my favorite historical rabbit holes. And when I mean by favorite, I mean, like, the ones that, like, do genuinely disturb me a little bit. Like, the ones that you go down and you're kind of like, huh? That happened? What do you mean Columbus said that he got with a manatee? Like, stuff like that. Like stuff like that. There's the easy ones. Like, we could talk about the AIDS Caust. We can talk about King Leopold II, bro. So, those who know. But then there's some other ones, like, Jonestown. Jonestown's big, brother. Like, I'm shocked that one doesn't get talked about. Or, like, something like the Anthill Kids. I'm sorry, bro. The fact that that doesn't get talked about as much as I believe it deserves in comparison to other stuff here, that's genuinely crazy to me. And in this video, I'm going to be going through some of the most disturbing events and rabbit holes in history, and I'm going to be ranking them on how much they disturbed me, okay? They're all bad, but how much did they actually disturb me when I found out about them? That's what we're going to be talking about today in this video. If this video is entertaining you, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, I know my eye's a little bit messed up. I'm not going to do the story time in this one. If you want to know what happened, you just got to tune into the stream. Tune into the stream. We're going to be starting doing more of that because that was really fun. But, yeah. I've already told the story way too many times. We'll do it on there, okay? And with all that out of the way, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay notified. We're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That is the goal. And with all that, let's get into the video. Let's go. Christopher Columbus. Yeah, bro, just Christopher Columbus in general, bro. Let me tell you something. It's been enough since I've done a historical video that, like, there's enough of my fan base that isn't aware of my actual disdain for Christopher Columbus. And this is coming from an American, dog. Christopher Columbus is one of the biggest frauds in the entirety of history because the amount, like, in school, the amount of stuff that is given to Christopher Columbus that he just does not deserve. Like, at all. Oh my goodness, bro, he was the first European to ever land in America. No, he wasn't. He quite literally wasn't. Leif Erikson got here 300 years before he did. So, sorry, back it up a little bit. Leif Erikson did it first, and he landed in Canada, okay? I'm sorry, bro. Brother, that's what Vinland was. I'm not, brother, the entire, Vinland was actually North America. Leif Erikson was one of the first people to be here, and he described talking to Native Americans. Oh, well, I mean, like, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. When Christopher Columbus got here, he discovered the New World. Brother, Christopher Columbus was so bad as an explorer that when he landed in Central America, he thought it was the West Indies. He legitimately thought that he was closer to India than he was a completely different world. And you want to know why? Brother, let me tell you about something about Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus got laughed out at pretty much of every single courtroom where he, like royal court, where he tried to petition this idea to go as so far in one direction to basically go around the world. Oh, well, here's a wild one. Here's a wild one. They would say stuff like, well, it's because of Christopher Columbus we found out that the earth was round. I have no clue who started that lie, but that's literally just not true, like, at all. It was already a fairly understood thing being like, yeah, no, most people of the time kind of realized that, hey, yo, the earth is most likely round. They're like, you had Greek philosophers saying this literally thousands of years before Christopher Columbus. It's like, well, there were people that thought the earth was flat back then. There are people that think the earth is flat now. Like, I'm sorry, there comes a point where you're not going to be able to convince people and like treating it like Christopher Columbus was the guy to prove it, when in reality, there's like no proof that that's actually the case. And then I talked about, like, yeah, he might have gotten with a manatee. Bro, Christopher Columbus was such a bad captain that he got threatened with mutinies so often that he would actually write in his journal, the crew loves me, and I fear for them what if anything happened to me. In reality, the entirety of his crew absolutely hated this guy, and they thought brother, when Christopher Columbus landed in the New World, he thought these were Indians. And what I mean by, like literally people from India would go over there and proceed to brutalize them so badly that he got excommunicated from the Catholic Church when he returned to Europe. Do you have any idea how brutal you have to be to get excommunicated by the Catholic Church after enriching them? Like, I want you to realize how crazy that is, bro. Imagine giving the Catholic Church gold, like a wild amount of gold, and getting excommunicated because you were so brutal. Brother, his crew was so terrified of him because of how brutal he was to the indigenous population that they kind of just carried out the orders. Now, that doesn't give them a pass, bro. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, brutal things were done in history. This is where it does kind of bother me. If you want to say it was a different time back then, say it was a different time back then. Okay, the people back then thought Christopher Columbus was so brutal that that was way overboard, so they excommunicated him from the Catholic Church. Brother, one of the first things that he said about the Native Americans when he landed in the New World is that these people are going to be so easy to enslave. This man was on such crazy timing that even people that were back, like I think it was the Royal Court of Spain, even they were like, bro, we need to get Columbus out of there, bro. Columbus has actually made this into one of the worst situations that we could possibly do. Now, are there some dumb people on the other side? Like, I still, to this day, see people that unironically believe Christopher Columbus was the one that invented slavery. Like, I'm sorry, bro, books are not that scary. Bro, we're getting really, really rant heavy right now. Yeah, no, if you believe Christopher Columbus is the reason why how we found out that the earth was actually round, you're crazy, and read a book. If you're also one of the people that believe Christopher Columbus invented slavery, read a book. It's not that difficult, bro. Like, dude, what are some disturbing parts? Brother, he describes sleeping with a mermaid. It was most likely a manatee. And the most concerning part about it is apparently this was like such a common thing that they believe that the majority of the myths that have to do with mermaids and like them seducing sailors, it was probably just a dude who slept with a manatee. And that's one of the most disturbing. Brother, I'm sorry, bro. Manatees are basically like just water balloons that just float through the ocean, and even storks don't like attacking them because they're so like they're just chill. Imagine doing that. Don't, because that would make you a Christopher Columbus. Brother, the entirety of the Christopher Columbus fiasco, it disturbs you because it was like, for what Christopher Columbus did and the amount of credit that he is given, it's so weird to me. It's like, well, I mean, like, what do you mean? Brother, first off, this entire rant is me literally poking holes in the whole, in the legacy of Columbus, okay? But then I'm still gonna hear somebody saying, okay, well, we still have to give him credit for discovering the New World. Why is it not named after him? No, tell me. Why is it not called North Colombia, South Colombia, Central Colombia? Why is it not called that? Why is it called America? Because the person who actually was able to realize that this was like a brand new piece of land was called Amerigo Vespucci, a Spanish conquistador. Somebody who actually knew what he was doing. Bro, yes, very bad. Christopher Columbus is an absolute fraud of a thing. The AIDS cost. I'm calling it that because I love YouTube and they do not have a problem with me when I cover heavy subject matters as long as I use code phrases. I love it. Well, where do I even start with the AIDS cost, bro? Like, the truth is, man, is, like, at least in America, bro, you are taught the AIDS cost so early. And this isn't, like, complaining, but it's, like, there's so much messed up stuff that happened in history. The amount of times that you cover the AIDS, like, but I don't know about you guys. We started talking about 1940s Germany in like 5th grade, and literally we would have a segment every single like winter up until you graduated. There was never a time where you were not talking about like and I get it, World War II was like literally the climax of human history. Like, I'll say that right now, bro. Like, the majority of human history is filler going into WW2. WW2 was literally the character defining moment for the US, and I get that. But like, you cut like, I'll say this right now, bro. Like, I would be curious how they cover, like, the AIDS cost in Germany in comparison to how we cover it. Because the amount of times that we are, told about it, and you are given every single detail. And the truth is that there's even some details they don't even really tell you. Like, no. There were other aspects that were even more brutal that they don't even tell you. Like, you have the medical stuff. And the funniest part about it is, like, you cover the AIDS cost so much, and they don't cover what happened afterwards, really. Like, I still hear people that are legitimately shocked that, like, yeah, no, Stalin actually had more bodies than Evil Mustache Man. Like, there are still people that are shocked by that figure, and they have this weird way of justifying it, like, well, I mean, like, Stalin did it to... I've actually heard the argument that, like, Stalin didn't do it on purpose, and I'm like, huh? Are we being for real? Like, we can argue evil versus evil all day, but there's no way that you can argue that one of them isn't evil. Like, no. Stalin's evil. Evil Mustache Man is evil. But, like, it is kind of crazy that we don't cover as much of the gulags over here. And it's kind of like, okay, let's just skip to the Cold War. And yeah, Russia wasn't happy with us because of this, this, and this. And I'm over here like, we're kind of glazing the Soviets just a little bit. I'm sorry, this is turning into a completely different rant. But the point that I'm trying to make, dog, is that nobody debates how bad the AIDS cost was, to the point that it's literally a sue-in into it still kind of haunts me, because there's still so many rabbit holes that you can go down, to the point that it's like, brother, we spent literally the majority of your, like, academic life studying it, and there's still stuff they don't really tell you. Like, brother, did you know that the Diary of Anne Frank is, like, a heavily edited version? Like, there's a lot of stuff that is taken out of Anne Frank's diary. There's a ton that they did not put into there that you have to go out of your way to find. And I'm going to put it in It Still Haunts Me. The Congo Free State of King Leopold II. I've talked about King Leopold II a couple times. I think this is one of those things in history that, like, does not get talked about nearly enough. I'm sorry, we kind of gloss over the fact that this guy named King Leopold had 10 million bodies in the Congo. 10 million! Do you have any idea how wild a number that is? 10 million? Brother, like, if you put this under any other demographic other than, yeah, bro, it was just some crazy stuff that happened in Africa, this would be known as one of the biggest sides, okay, like, you know what I'm saying, in human history, and it just doesn't really get talked about, brother. King Leopold II was such a brutal man that one of the biggest things, like, I like that he brought up as, like, as one of his quotes, is he found out that his men were brutalizing the indigenous of the Congo so bad that he got angry at them for starting to cut off their hands because that made them ineffective slaves. This man had to go, okay? But we're not just talking about King Leopold II. We're talking about, like, the actual event. Brother, there's some absurd pictures that you can find that aren't even that long ago, really, in human history, where one thing that they would do is a lot of these people that were trying to intimidate the indigenous people of the Congo, after they took out a certain number of rebels, they would literally build huts out of their skulls. Like, there's these absurd pictures of just these random white guys just strolling around the Congo. It's like, hey, yo, here's my property. Made of bones, by the way. I understand the absurdity of it, like, kind of, like, it sullies it a little bit, in terms of, like, there's no way that happened. It can't be that bad. No, brother, it is that bad, bro. And what was this all for? Rubber! It was all for rubber trees, bro, and King Leopold was so mad at his inheritance and that his kingdom wasn't big enough that he decided, hey, yo, I also inherited the Congo, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna exploit the Congo so bad, like absurd. And while conflict is going on around the world, I'm gonna sell rubber to a lot of these people to the point that they don't really care at the actual absurdity that I'm conducting in the Congo right now. Like, you could go down a full rabbit hole of literally every single practice that they would do. Like, again, I need to point this out. When they would start cutting things off of people, and the only reason they stopped doing that, and well, they didn't even stop, really. They still did ears, they still went for eyes, they still did noses. But the only reason they actually kind of stopped is that King Leopold was like, hey, don't be cutting off their hands or feet because that kind of ruins them as, like, a labor force. That was the thing that he pushed back on. That's how bad this guy was, bro. I'm sorry. I have to put the free Congo movement of King Leopold II. Brother, that was terrible. It's absurd that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, bro. I gotta put it. And brother, he came from a country of Burgundy. Imagine coming from a kingdom of Burgundy and doing all of that, brother. I'm sorry, terrible. Jonestown. Yeah, dog, I've talked about this enough, and I'm probably going to talk about it in, like, the cult video that I'm going to do. But the entirety of the Jim Jones situation and the Jonestown massacre, like, that entire thing, like, I think the part that bothers me is how well documented it is. You ever think about that? Like, there's so much bad stuff that gets done throughout history, but it's so, like, it's not documented nearly as good as it would be if it happened today. Like, I want you to think about this, bro. If anything even remotely bad happens today, you have that in 4K, 60 frames per second within 15 minutes, bro. Everybody has internet, everybody's broadcasting. The Jonestown incident is not even in the age of the internet. It was in the age where they just started really filming things. And they had this stuff filmed and documented so well that the Jonestown incident that ended with 900... No, again, 900 people going... You know the saying, drink the Kool-Aid? That doesn't actually come from Heaven's Gate. That comes from Jonestown. It just gets attributed to Heaven's Gate because Heaven's Gate was something that was talked about a bit more because there was admittedly a little bit more absurdity to it. Jonestown was just so dark that people they kind of just like compartmentalized it. And I think part of the reason that it did kind of happen is that Heaven's Gate happened in America, or like happened like closer to like it was a bit more. It was a bit more. Does that make sense? Like people understood it a bit more. In terms of Jonestown, this was a guy who was like a preacher that brought like 1,000 people down to Central America to start basically his own commune, and it ended up with 900 people getting iced, and the entire instance of 900 people losing, like. Going back to the lobby up top, okay? That entire instance is recorded. You can still listen to that audio, and it still haunts me. That messes with me. I think that's the thing that gets with me the most. The fact that this man was seen as like a savior to these people, and he took that trust and just ended the existence of almost 1,000 people. I think that's the part that still haunts me. That haunts me quite a bit because of just how cold and unfeeling this man is. And I have to put it right there. Chernobyl. I'm going to be roasting some communists really quick, bro, because they just find this weird need to still come at us. Like, brother, understand this. I'm not saying America doesn't have problems. However, bro, there comes a point where, like, y'all glaze the Soviet Union so hard, and you don't even realize that, like, you're also glazing America. Like, here's one of my favorite stats. They'll bring up something in, like, well, in WW2, the Soviets actually were producing tanks at a higher frequency than America was. And it's like, yeah, we had to send the fucking architect of Detroit to the Soviet Union to teach them how to do that. I want you to think about this, bro. Just about every major flex of a communist state can be linked to a capitalist. Oh, well, I mean this. Brother. Oh! Like, y'all are glazing a dude that has more bodies than Evil Mustache Man. Like, I need you to understand that, and we're going to be covering that, like, later on, because, again, there's some other stuff from the communist state of the Soviet Union that is also disturbing, but when we're talking about just Chernobyl's actually a bit more palatable, because it kind of makes sense, bro. They're going to be doing some nuclear power, and then guess what? Since nuclear power is super unpredictable, it ends up blowing up and then just ionizing the actual air, and they were like, oh, well, I mean, that's not that bad of a problem. It just blew up a little bit. What's actually going to happen? Dog, it made the air glow! I think it's a bigger problem than you think. Well, what do you mean? Dog, you were dealing with material that was so insanely radioactive that it literally caused the entire, like, region of Chernobyl to be uninhabitable, a no man's land. It is, but I want you to think about how crazy this is. So much radioactive material was coming straight out of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor that it had an equivalency to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki over the course of 5 minutes. 5 minutes of the nuclear reactor being exposed, exposed more radiation than the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. That's how radioactive that thing was, okay? But then how did they fix it? Brother, they literally had to use just about the full resources of the Soviet Union to cover up this mess. And then we found out about it. And because we were in a Cold War, we were kind of like, ooh, we're going to let them do their own thing and drain their resources. You think the Soviet Union was going to help us if we had the same problem? Hell nah, okay? So that I don't even really blame us for that. But this is the part that's kind of crazy. The way that the Soviet Union labeled this entire thing as a freak accident when the entirety of the Chernobyl incident was one of the most avoidable things that could ever occur. Let me give you some game on how does a nuclear reactor work. The entirety of a nuclear reactor is essentially just a modern version of a Like steam engine. This is essentially what happens. I'm going to take a super hormonal rock, a bipolar rock called uranium, and then I'm going to dip it into some water, and it's going to make steam, and that's going to turn some turbines, and guess what, bro? It creates electricity. Oh, well, what happens if we run out of water? What happens if it starts melting down, going into meltdown? Okay, we drop some iodine, I think it's iodine or not iodine, it's either iodine or tungsten rods into the water, basically as ice cubes, because it creates this bro, I'm like running out of breath, that's how hard we're going. This chemical reaction that ends up like, hey, let's tell the hormonal rock maybe calm down a little bit, or we're going to be going into a meltdown again. So, what ended up happening? They didn't have a fail-safe. They had one of the most radioactive materials on the planet, something that will never happen in the history of no, brother, the nuclear reaction that happened at Chernobyl is something that nature will never be able to replicate. The meltdown of Chernobyl is literally a once-in-a-planetary event, okay? And they did it because they were like, hey, we are Soviet Union. We are better than America. So how are we going to do this? We're going to not give a fuck, okay? We're just going to sweep it under the rug. Who cares? We're going to have some coal miners fix it too, and then they're all going to die horrific deaths. Yeah! Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened. The entirety of the Chernobyl incident was one of the most avoidable ones in the fact that the Soviet Union, like, literally swept that under the rug like it was nothing. And I get it. We do similar stuff, too. Chernobyl was your fault. We had nothing to do with that. That was all you, buddy. Okay, I'm sorry. And another thing, brother. We have nuclear reactors. We just don't have meltdowns like that because guess what, bro? We actually have, like, safety concerns that we have to deal with. Okay, we're getting into it. It's bad. It's bad, but, like, you can make an argument. You know what, bro? I'm just going to put it in that's crazy. Honestly. You want to know why? It kind of makes sense. Oh, yeah, bro. The biggest nuclear meltdown on the planet up to that point. Well, who was it done by? The communist. Who would have thunk it? Chiquita Banana and the Banana Republic. What happens, bro, if I take a big fruit company, okay? And they decide, hey, we kind of want to cut our profit. We want to make our profit margins even higher. We're going to go to a country that we have so much more resources than that we can fundamentally bully the entirety of the country to do whatever we want, thus creating a banana republic down in Guatemala. And then we go down to Guatemala, and what essentially happens is that we own more land than any other citizen and even the government. And then what we're going to do is, because we're going to become the sole export of this country, because we are a company that is more valuable than this country, we can essentially pay people almost nothing because we are the thing that gives their country its value. Okay, so what's going to happen right after that? Oh, you're going to have unions. They're going to be like, hey, I understand that you guys have all the leverage here, but like, hey, I need to be able to pay my family. And they would have radical beliefs like, hey, if I lose my life working for you, can you at least give my family enough money to survive for 3 months? And then this banana company was so angered by this that they ended up recruiting some actual, like, crime gangs to go in and ice union leaders. This is what they actually got in trouble for fairly recently. Chiquita has no chill. Okay, but well, then what happens after that? You had a presidential candidate that tries to come in the power arguing that, yeah, one company shouldn't own more land than the entirety of the Guatemalan government. So what the Guatemalan government wanted to do was come in and basically start taking land from Chiquita Banana or force them to pay taxes to the actual country so it enriched the people and not just this one company. So what does Chiquita Banana do at this point? They go to the U.S. government and say, guess what, bro? Guatemala's becoming communist. We need you to come in here and absolutely destabilize them. You know the Bay of Pigs incident? That was the second time we tried doing that. The first time, it worked perfectly, and we did it in Guatemala, and Chiquita Banana effectively bullied the entirety of Guatemala into submission. Bad. Very bad. Honestly, very bad, bro. That's insane. And they're still around. They are literally just Chiquita Banana. You can look this up. They've gotten in trouble for this legally. I'm sorry. Very bad. They are... Dude, I'm not kidding. Look up the term Banana Republic. It comes from them. Very bad. MK Ultra. Can I be honest with you? This one doesn't disturb me as much as it makes me laugh. Because it is the most dude bro way of thinking I have ever heard, bro. They're over here like, bro, First off, CIA was putting up absolutely insane Michael Jordan numbers in operations during the 70s. Like, imagine this, bro. Imagine there's this new substance that's coming after World War II, and apparently it was like a stimulant that the Germans use, call it LSD, okay? And they're taking that and they're like, yo, bro, this thing's has superpower. It's our truth serum. We're going to be able to make a Manchurian candidate, which essentially what that means is that they can take a person and hypnotize them and give them substances to do things against their will. Yes, that is also the operation behind Operation Midnight Climax, which is literally what you think it is, by the way. They took a bunch of John Does, and they put them in brothels, and then they dosed them with LSD, and then they would watch them behind the mirrors, bro. Bro, imagine having the job of CIA in the C chair, bro, and you're over here taking notes. Damn. Bro, I'm sorry. Anybody that was like, I need that job, I want that declassified right now. I want to know who you were, bro. That's insane. Okay, MK Ultra, they were essentially just dosing people with these substances to kind of just get them to become a Manchurian candidate and do stuff against their own wills. They were also experimenting with stuff that comes out of Stranger Things. Like, they thought mind control was a big thing. They thought they went crazy. They went absolutely absurd. The part that disturbs me about it is that it was something that was never meant to come out, and the fact that the only reason we know about MK Ultra is because they put the files that detailed MK Ultra in the wrong warehouse, and that warehouse mysteriously burned down. The entirety of MK Ultra, as we know it, is literally just the leftover files that they forgot to eviscerate, and they're over here like, oh yeah, we did some crazy stuff. So, like, is there any other files that were a part of it? Yeah. What happened to them? Oh, they're gone now. Huh? Brother, what? I'm sorry, dude. MK Ultra, I'm putting it in bad, but it's also like, it disturbs me because of how much they're like, yeah, bro, of course we did that. Huh? Bad. The Gulags. This is what I mean, dog, okay? With the amount of times that we cover the camps and, like, American education, what do you mean we just don't really cover the Gulags, man? Like, the Gulags were so, like, also just so crazy at the idea that any level of political prisoner or just, like, any idea that went against the Soviet Union got you rounded up and put into a work camp where you essentially were there for the majority of your life. Like, we make jokes about back to the Gulag. The Gulags, like, dude, imagine if you got iced in Call of Duty and they said, back to the camp. That game's getting canceled like that. They just say Gulags because it's like, hey, yo, it's funny. The one that is in particular that probably gets me the most is that there was this island in the Soviet Union that they would send political prisoners to. And what ended up happening is because logistically the Soviet Union was an actual hellscape trying to get food to people, that most people starved. Like, literally 40 million people gone. Like, again, absurd number. 40 million people is an absurd number. Okay? We just gloss over that. Insane. Okay, because it was a logistical nightmare when they sent these people to this gulag on an island. All of the guards would take the food that was meant to go to the prisoner. So what ended up happening is you had 4,000 people isolated on an island that nobody gave food to for literal months at a time. And that is what became the man-eating island. There's another name for it. The man-eating island. There was 4,000 people. By the end of it, it was like 300. Brother, what? And the only reason that this ever even came out is that some of the officers that were working to give food to them confessed to it because they thought if they never confessed it, they wouldn't get into heaven. I need you to think about how wild that is. The only reason that we know about it happened is that one dude on his deathbed was like, bro, I'm probably not going to get into heaven, but let me just say this really bad thing that I did back in the day, so maybe it can give me a better chance. Again, that's also what happened with a certain other thing that we're going to be covering later on in this video. But I'm going to put this, terrible. Brother, you have to put it there. The Anthill Kids. We talked about Jonestown. We talked about Heaven. Well, we're going to be talking about Heaven's Gate in a minute. But, one that I think just doesn't get talked about enough is the Anthill Kids. What essentially happens with the Anthill Kids is that there was this one dude, started a cult. He was like a miracle healer that never really healed anybody, by the way, like, at all. He was actually, like, hilariously bad with medicine. Like, this man was like, I have a bellyache. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna inject acid into your stomach. Huh? No joke. No joke. That's how crazy this man was, okay? So he starts a cult. Go down a few years, by the way, because it always takes a while for these things to go crazy. And it ends with this one dude with a bunch of other guys that allow this man to sleep with their wives. And because, this always happens in these cults, they have a bunch of children and they call them the anthill kids because they're always working like they're a part of an ant colony. And while this man is basically like their prophet figure. And one chick tries to run away, and this man gets her, chops off her hand because he tries to get away with her kid, and they leave the child out in the snow because at this point, this is like a lost child. And there was another, it might have been the same chick, there was another chick that had a problem with her head, and then this man, to decide to heal it, would take this woman, take a hole in her head, and then proceed to use the head as a way of... how do I say this? The people that know are like, oh. The people who don't know, like, what did he do with the hole? What did he do with the hole that he drilled into her head? What did he do? You know. You know what he did. He gave her what he thought was the healing seed. And that this was going to heal her. Don't you just love history, dog? Don't you just love it, man? Isn't it not just sunshine and rainbows? Bro, what happened to him? He lived. He went to prison for the rest of his life, but he lived. He also fathered a child while he was in prison, by the way. Think of that too, buddy. What else happened after that? He let one of the other guys that was there also do the same thing with this. It haunts me. It still does haunt me. Brother, what? Like, huh? Dog, I think that's one reason I haven't made a cult video yet, because I think the cults one bother me the most, because these are the most desperate groups of people there ever been. These people are so desperate for a community that stuff like this happens, and they're like, yes, but this is all I have. Dog, that's so bad. That's awful, bro. I'm sorry. That one messes with me sometimes. Heaven's Gate. Now, this is gonna sound really messed up, bro, but in comparison to Jonestown and the Anthill Kids, Heaven's Gate's borderline whimsical. Like, I know that sounds really messed up, but like, Heaven's Gate is borderline a whimsical story in comparison, bro. You have these people that believe that they are also Jesus and an alien from outer space. There's a comet that's coming over the Earth, and they realize that the only way that they can get inside of this comet, that's also a UFO, by the way, is if they go back to the ancestral lobby at the time that the comet is passing overhead. And what ends up happening is that they do this, and they're all wearing the same jumpsuits, and they're all wearing the same shoes, and they're all wearing the same outfits, and some people were like, well, why did they do that? And they tried to give like crazy answers for it. In reality, it was just this, they bought things in bulk, so that's what they ended up doing. These were just kind of like weird individuals. Also, it wasn't Kool-Aid, it was Powerade, because Kool-Aid was a bit too expensive. Not kidding. That's legit. That's true. Another fun fact about the Heaven's Gate, the only people that didn't, themselves are the ones that were in charge of maintaining the website. Because they said that there still had to be people. Brother, imagine having that job. Like, what do you do? I maintain the Heaven's Gate website. Yeah. I'm glad that they're on the comet going back to the home world. I'm over here maintaining the domain. Brother, history just isn't real sometimes. Like stuff like that really gets me to think, brother, we might be living in GTA, dog. That's crazy to me. But in truth, bro, in terms of everything, I'll put it in very bad, but like it's not to the level of any of these, dog. I'm putting it in very bad though. Imperial Japan and their deeds. Unit 731 in Nanking. I'm sorry, those alone, bro. Like people talk about, it's like, was Hiroshima and Nagasaki justified? Understand this. Was it justified for us to do it when we didn't know about Unit 731 and Nanking? Even then, I would argue you're kind of in the fog of war. And the thing about the fog of war is that it has a really nasty habit of dissipating the moment that the conflict is over. So I do kind of give us a little bit of a pass there, a little bit. But I do agree in terms of civilian life lost, that's absolutely insane. But I would be lying if I didn't think it. So like a little part of me thought, that is like perfect trauma. No, not perfect trauma, like perfect karma. Imagine being Imperial Japan and you commit atrocities like Unit 731 against primarily civilians, by the way, and they were testing out medical and ballistic products on children, and when they ran out of children, the guards made more children with the women that were POWs, by the way, so they could experiment on the children. That's Hiroshima right there. That one's that you get Hiroshima for that one. Okay. What about Nanking? Brother, Nanking was so bad. It is known as the biggest collective kithing in documented history. That's how bad it was. 60,000. It is so bad that, like, Japan doesn't even, it is illegal to acknowledge Nanking. That's how bad it is. The only reason that we know about Unit 731 and Nanking is that so people that were involved with it, that were Christians, were so guilty that they did it, that they confessed to it on their deathbeds. Brother, I'm sorry. Bro, that haunts me. That one does. I will every once in a while people will be like, why do you go at Imperial Japan so much? Brother, the fact that Imperial Japan literally got to walk that off, basically, and they are the ones that get the sympathy card for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, is so crazy to me, because it's like, brother, I'm sorry. Like, if you want to do this thing where it's like, fine, but we have to own up to our mistakes, or we're not, or we're worse, or no, or we're just as bad as Imperial Japan. Okay, let's just say this then. America during WW2 is literally just a better society than Japan. Literally just better. Morally is just a better society than Japan, dog. I'm to the point that the more that you learn about Imperial Japan, the more that you're like, yo, dog, Japan having a problem where they are literally running out of people. Like, they literally cannot replace their elderly that, were probably a part of it to a certain degree at a rate to the point that they're actually being ethnically replaced, and they have to start begging people to go over to Japan to make babies. Brother, that is like biblical levels of karma. Honestly, that's justice right there, bro. It haunts me, but you're getting it. North Korea. Isn't it kind of weird that, like, just North Korea is just a thing? Like, this is what I mean by it. Like, you have the entirety of society, like, doing their thing. Like, we're talking about this. Like, but North Korea's over here, like, brother, yeah, we don't really have technology. Literacy rate is at an all-time low. Starvation is just a normal thing that occurs. And they believe Kim Jong-un is literally a prophet god among men. Okay, and Kim Il-sung, his dad, invented the hamburger, and on his first game of golf did a perfect game, and Kim Jong-un was born in the heart of a volcano. Brother, North Korea is just not a real place, dog. It just can't be, bro. I still hear, like, brain dead arguments, like, North Korea's the free one. Brother, if North Korea is free, I would rather live in servitude. I'm just gonna be dead ass with you, dog. I just will. Like, I'll still hear people like, well, we do bad stuff too. If your entire argument is literally just whataboutisms and other whataboutisms, then you literally do not have an argument that is fit to be heard. That's how bad it is, bro. Okay? No. Like, two things can be true. Like, you can acknowledge that we do bad things and also be like, yeah, North Korea's like a hellscape on Earth. Well, why don't we fix it? Brother, so you want us involved in even more petty wars? And here's the truth, bro. The entire existence of North Korea even being a thing is more or less a consequence of the Korean War. And that is true. Here's the part that they don't tell you. If we weren't involved with it, South Korea would also be like North Korea. Do you want that? Oh, well, at least they would be free. Are we being dead ass? Are we being for real right now? Brother, I'm sorry. Some of y'all are actually brain rotted, and it's legitimately insane, bro. North Korea, just the entirety of their prison camp syndrome. I'm putting it in terrible, and it's just absurd that it's just happening now. That's that. I gotta put it right there. And there you go. Those are some of the most disturbing events in history. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That is the goal, and it's gonna be close, but I do believe it's possible. We've recently started streaming. I'm trying to do that every Saturday. I'm gonna do in some more days because you guys weren't able to make the 12 p.m. stream, but the 12 p.m. stream actually did really good for a first stream. I think we topped out at around like 1,000 concurrent viewers on a random Saturday when most of you guys are either working or just vibing out. I do appreciate when you guys came through. It was a fun time. I'm gonna make it a little bit better. I want to do some more reacts and stuff. There's some stuff that I want to do, and I think that'll be pretty good. And I'm hyped for that. Okay, that's really what I'm trying to say. If you enjoyed this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We are trying to get to. Wait, I've already said this. Oh my gosh, I'm losing it right now, bro. This is the first video that I'm recording for the week in terms of the Bax recording. Thank you, everybody who comes in and watches these videos. And with all that out of the way, I will see you all in the next one. Adios, guys.